Welcome to the Witchy Work Wishes podcast, a place to find your weekly inspiration for bringing your personal witchcraft practice into your business, work, and office. Welcome to Witchy Work Wishes and to this magical episode, number 107, which is dedicated to the fall celebration of Samhain. I am your host, Charlene, and oh my goodness, you guys, we sure have had a fun month here in October so far with the 3 episodes all about working on our own personal genealogy and then calling our loved ones who have passed to join us in a dumb supper. I want to say thank you for the supporting comments and words of encouragement. I am so happy you guys love the series. I really, really did too. All right, so today is all about the specific celebration of Samhain on our Wheel of the Year. I do have some quick updates for you on things happening in my practice and at Witchy Work Wishes. For my own practice, I feel something. It's stirring. I know it is with many of us right now, and I'm not sure if it has to do with the signs I've been getting, the messages, or what. Or you know what? Honestly, maybe. It's just the time of the year. This is when things are stirring. But I do feel a shift coming on, and I am just going with the flow. I'm not fighting anything, and I'm not forcing anything. I am remaining open and available. And I'll keep myself alert to, any further signs and signals that might be coming my way. I think collectively, I hope collectively, they will add up to the direction that I am supposed to be taking. I will say that things have lined up again recently for me, though. I looked ahead to November and really wanted to showcase Hecate and her night of the 16th on one of the episodes. So I wanted to pull that energy and learn more about her. I normally look ahead, or, I have over the last 2 years with this podcast. Now, I may not record until the week before, but I have a general idea of the direction I want to go. So anyways, I was looking ahead and I got some more signs or, some type of validation. I drew the card for our Patreon workings in November, and I'll be damned if it's not totally connected to Hecate. I don't want to give it away right now, but it confirmed that I am on the right path, like completely confirmed. So I also wanted to save the last episode of November to, talk about being a thankful witch. I thought it would tie in nicely with Thanksgiving here in the United States and, just what being thankful means to us and our practices. And guess what episode it lines up with? Number 111, 111. Now, if you happen to see when I post my episodes each Wednesday, it's at 1:11 a.m. Pacific time. Every Wednesday, this is my time. Now, again, if you are on Patreon, you're now going to get it earlier, but the general postings to the public are at 1:11 a.m. And here it is. I lined up my November topics and I got some synchronicity. My thankful theme episode is going to be episode number 111. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Another little nudge that it is exactly what I should be doing on that day. In numerology, the number 111 is often going to be seen as a powerful spiritual sign, symbolizing our, new beginnings, maybe some spiritual growth or awakenings that we're going through. But it also can tie in with, an alignment to our higher purpose. So the number 1 is linked to fresh starts and opportunities. When we see it, it can suggest, maybe something new is on the horizon, or that it's a time to embrace new ventures with confidence. The repetition of 1 amplifies its energy, representing the power of thoughts to manifest reality. So seeing 111 can be a reminder for us to stay positive and focused on our desires, that our thoughts are rapidly manifesting into our own experience. 111 can signify that you are on the right path of spiritual growth and awakening. It's, going to be seen often as a sign from the universe or maybe even your higher self that you are aligned with your spiritual purpose. And then also, 111 can indicate that you're just in alignment with the flow of the universe and that, your own intuition is strong. It can serve, again, as that little nudge to trust your instincts and to listen to your inner voice. Now, for me personally, the 3 ones have even more meaning. My two boys and I all have the power of one with our birthday, like, the day of the month we were born on. So Taylor and I both reduced down to the number one, and Connor was actually born on the first. So 3 ones in a row represent the three of us to me. And, they add up to the power of three, the number three. So anyhow, it's a significant sequence for me personally. So when it matched up to the episode number 111, well, yeah, you guys, I just knew. I knew taking time to be thankful and exploring that more with you was exactly what I should be doing. So the power of three is also significant in talking about the triple goddess. It's the maiden, mother, and crone. The power of three is used in our triple knotwork. It's used in Wicca with the threefold law. It's tied to the mind, body, and spirit work we do. And it's heavily linked to the manifestation magic where spells or intentions are repeated 3 times to increase their potency. So you guys, we've got this. We've got this. We are talking about everything that we should be talking about right now. And again, I'm going with the flow, but I'm taking the guidance. And I'll tell you, it sure feels good when I get little moments of validation like this. Little recognitions of, hey, girl, like you're on the right path. Keep moving forward. Now for witchy work wishes, things are going super, super good. The website has just about everything you need and really is going to be that one spot to go to if you are looking to see what I'm dabbling in, what's coming up, whatever's going on. There's a link to everything at that site. So Patreon is growing little by little, and oh my goodness, you guys, the November card drop, which of course, I drew it. I'm marinating on it right now. I'm going to post it next week. But then I have the journal prompts that I will work on, after marinating with it. They're going to be posted the week after that. Then the spell that goes with it is going to be posted on the 3rd week, and all of it is going to tie right back to the card, to the direction, which again matches up perfectly to me wanting some ties to Hecate. So anyways, join me over on Patreon so you guys can be a part of this too. November is shaping up to be amazing. Today, though, we are at the last 2 days of October. It is actually Samhain Eve as this airs, and it is the perfect time to take a step back and talk about the Witch's New Year with you and wrap up our October energy. Let me be the first to say happy Samhain, everyone. This is a big celebration on our Wheel of the Year. It is one of the 8 pagan festivals that marks the changing of seasons and the rhythms of nature. Our celebrations on this Wheel of the Year are all rooted in agricultural and astronomical traditions, and each one is associated with, specific spiritual themes and energies. So I want to just jump into each one of those first before we actually talk about Samhain. So the first one that, I know you guys, I always start with January, but the first one that I start with is Imbolc. This is our February 1st celebration, and it really does mark the midpoint between winter and spring. It's a time of purification and renewal and preparation for the upcoming growing season. Brigid, our goddess of fire and fertility, is often honored during Imbolc. Ostara is next. This is our spring equinox that happens somewhere around March 21st. This is a celebration of balance and fertility and really does coincide with the spring equinox. Our day and our night are equal here, and this helps to symbolize harmony between the light and the dark. This festival is associated with planting, with rebirth, and the awakening of nature. Beltane is next, one of my favorites. This one is a May 1st celebration-ish, around May 1st. And it celebrates, fertility, passion, and the blossoming of life. This is one of our fire festivals, marking the arrival of summer when, the earth's energies are most potent. Traditions with Beltane are going to include dancing around the maypole, lighting bonfires, all to honor the sun. Now, if you work with the Fae and Fairies, or if you want to, this is the time. It is exactly opposite of Samhain, and it's another very thin veil time. So Litha comes next. This is somewhere around June 21st. This is a celebration really of when, the sun is at its peak. It's going to be a time of abundance and joy, celebration of life as a whole. The summer solstice marks the longest day of the year, so the rituals often are going to include, bonfires, gathering of herbs, and focusing on our own personal power. Lunasa is next. This is August 1st. And this one really is the first harvest festival on our Wheel of the Year. Lunasa is going to honor the abundance of the earth and the grain that we get to harvest. It's a great time to give thanks for the fruits of labor and, to celebrate the cycle of growth, sacrifice, and rebirth. Mabon follows. This one is going to be around September 21st. And this is our autumn equinox. It is the second harvest festival, and this one celebrates the balance of light and dark during the autumn time. It is a great time for gratitude, for the harvest that we get to partake in, and to remind us that we need to start preparing for the coming winter. So many in our practices are going to use this time to reflect on personal growth and kind of find our inner balance. Samhain is next. Yay! Here we are. This is October 31st through the 1st of November. This one really is known as our Witch's New Year. Samhain marks the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter. It is a time to honor our ancestors, to reflect on the past year, and recognize the thinning of the veil between our physical world and the spirit realm. Yule, this is at the end of the calendar year. This one is our winter solstice, happening somewhere around December 21st. And Yule really does celebrate the return of the sun and the rebirth of the light during the darkest time of the year. It marks our winter solstice, when the days start becoming longer again. Yule traditions often include lighting candles, decorating trees, and focusing on renewal. Today we are diving into Samhain and that celebration. And I think I said it last week, but if you do actually have ancestry going back to Ireland and Scotland, your little spider senses are probably tingling right now. But even if you don't, this is certainly a time of the year, a time on the Wheel of the Year, that all of us who practice witchcraft come alive. Fall just ignites something in all of us. All right, let's start where it all began. We're going to go back to the deep roots Samhain has in Celtic traditions that were practiced over in Scotland and Ireland. And it really was, for them, one of the most important festivals in their ancient Gaelic culture. So the ties between Samhain and Scottish and Irish ancestry, you guys, they're super rich, super detailed with folklore, rituals, and spiritual practices that have honestly been passed down through the generations. All right, if you look at how the word is spelled, Samhain doesn't look like it should be pronounced as we do. It is spelled Samhain, and it originates from the ancient Celtic people of Ireland, Scotland, and other parts of the British Isles. Now, in Irish and Scottish Gaelic, it marks the end of summer and the beginning of winter, a time when, the harvest was complete and the darker half of the year began. The actual word Samhain is derived from an old Irish word for summer's end. So this was a time of both celebration and deep reverence for the natural cycles, as well as for the ancestors who had passed. It was also seen as, that more liminal time of the year where that boundary between our physical world and our spirit world was at its thinnest. So in both Ireland and Scotland, Samhain was seen as a time when, the spirits of the dead could return to visit us. Families would often set places at their dinner table for deceased loved ones, offering food and drink in their honor. This practice of ancestor worship was central to Samhain in both the Scottish and the Irish cultures. Bonfires were lit, and people would gather to honor their dead, believing that the flames could help guide the spirits back to the other world. This connection to the dead and the spirit world is probably one of the more enduring aspects of Samhain in these two cultures. Now, in Irish mythology, Samhain was seen as a time when, the other world, the realms of the gods and the spirits and the dead, became accessible to us. This is evident in many Irish legends, such as the stories of Tuatha De Dan, who were believed to inhabit the other world. Many myths, like the story of the Morrigan, and I'm not going to say, I'm sure if I'm going to say this name right, Cuchulainn, if I said it right, take place during Samhain, emphasizing the supernatural elements and the thinning of the veil between the worlds. In Scotland, there are similar traditions involving spirits and the fairy folk who were believed to be more active during Samhain. Many people would leave offerings outside their homes to appease these spirits and also to avoid mischief. So bonfires, though, I know I just mentioned them, but they were central to both celebrations in Ireland and Scotland. Communities would light large bonfires on hilltops to ward off evil spirits and also offer protection. The ashes from these fires were believed to have protective and purifying powers, and people would often walk their livestock between the two fires to ensure their health over the coming winter months. Divination practices were also common during Samhain in both cultures. People believed that because the veil between the worlds was thin, that it was an ideal time to seek knowledge about the future. So various forms of divination, such as maybe using apples, nuts back then, or the fire scrying, they were performed to predict things like marriage, fortune, and even death in the coming year. All right, what about Halloween's roots in Samhain? So many of the customs associated with modern day Halloween, of course, have their roots in the ancient Samhain practices of Ireland and Scotland. The tradition of dressing up, or maybe wearing like costumes, they originate from the belief that disguises could help confuse or maybe ward off malevolent spirits who are roaming the earth during this time. Turnip carving was actually a Scottish and Irish tradition during Samhain, where grotesque faces were carved into turnips or other root vegetables to help ward off spirits. When the Irish and Scottish immigrants came to North America, they adapted this practice, carving pumpkins instead, because that's what we had more of. The pumpkins were more available. So with the spread of Christianity, many Samhain traditions were incorporated into All Saints' Day, which is November 1st, and All Souls' Day, which is November 2nd, which were meant to honor the dead and the saints. Now, despite Christianization, many pagan customs associated with Samhain survived in both Ireland and Scotland, blending, with the new religious observances. In rural parts of Ireland and Scotland, many of the old traditions, though, they were kept quietly alive, especially in the form of community bonfires, of storytelling and ancestor rituals. In Irish folklore, Samhain is the setting for many supernatural tales as well. So one such example is the Aosi, or the fairy folk, who were believed to be especially active during this time. In Irish tales, it was considered dangerous to disturb fairy mounds during Samhain, as the fairies were thought to be out traveling between their world and ours. In Scotland, there are similar tales about a type of banshee, and other spirits that were believed to be roaming freely around at Samhain. People would take extra care to protect themselves from harm during this time, often, again, using the fire, maybe even iron and salt to help protect themselves. Samhain, in both Scottish and Irish ancestry, is a time of deep respect for the cycle of life and death, for community, and spiritual connection with the unseen world that we have talked about so much this month. Many of these ancient customs have carried forward into our modern pagan practices, as well as into the popular celebrations of Halloween. But not everybody celebrates. So Samhain and the practice of the Dumb Supper are viewed negatively by certain cultures and religious groups. Honestly, primarily due just to the misunderstanding or differing spiritual perspectives. So I want to grab some examples. We can just talk about them real quickly, of groups that may consider Samhain or the Dumb Supper as evil or maybe even problematic. First and foremost, it's going to be our conservative Christian groups. Some conservative branches of Christianity, particularly those with strict interpretations of the Bible, view Samhain and associated practices like the Dumb Supper as forms of paganism or, occultism. These groups are often going to equate pagan or witchcraft-related practices with devil worship or demonic influence, even though neither Samhain nor the Dumb Supper involves such elements. The idea of communicating with spirits or honoring the dead in ways, let's say, like outside of Christian tradition, can be seen as contradictory to Christian teachings about, their view of life after death and the role of Christ. So the idea, I think, of summoning spirits or practicing rituals that are outside their religious framework leads some Christian groups to label these practices as evil or harmful. The association with Halloween, obviously directly from Samhain, also contributes to this perception, as Halloween is sometimes viewed as a dangerous celebration tied to darkness or witchcraft. Let's see, Islam, that's probably going to be another one. Islam generally discourages the practice of communicating with spirits or honoring the dead through rituals like ancestor worship, as it could be seen as, strained from strict monotheism. Practices involving spirit communication or rituals outside Islamic tradition may be considered forms of shirk, which is associating partners with God. This is viewed as a grave sin. So while Islam maybe deeply honors the deceased through their own type of prayers and charitable acts, I think they believe direct communication with spirits or engaging in rituals tied to the dead, such as the Dumb Supper, are seen as spiritually dangerous and are definitely contrary to the Islamic teachings. Orthodox Judaism is going to be another one. I believe, practices involving spirit communication, necromancy, or, involving the dead are explicitly forbidden in Orthodox Judaism. Jewish law strictly prohibits seeking to communicate with spirits or the deceased, seeing it as a violation of the natural order set by God. Any practice like the Dumb Supper where spirits are invited or honored would be considered prohibited. Their commandments forbid trying to communicate with the dead, participating in superstitions, as it diverts from traditional Jewish teachings about the afterlife and the role of God in these matters. And then also I think there's going to be certain evangelical or maybe fundamentalist Protestant groups that are going to view Samhain and Halloween as negative. I think, similar to conservative Christianity, many here are going to view Samhain and the Dumb Supper as occult practices. These groups often see any kind of ritual involving spirits, ancestor veneration, or, pagan symbolism as a rejection of Christian values. So practices like the Dumb Supper, which involve honoring our ancestors or connecting with spirits, may be viewed as spiritually dangerous or even demonic, honestly, from the perspective of these groups. So they are often going to associate witchcraft with negative spiritual forces and see, pagan traditions as incompatible with their faith. The negative views of Samhain and the Dumb Supper largely stem from religious perspectives that are focused on strict interpretations of scripture regarding the afterlife and, communication with the dead and rituals that fall outside of framework of their beliefs. So many of these traditions that I just mentioned are going to interpret such practices as contrary to their understanding of the spiritual world, leading them to label them as evil, right, or forbidden. However, for those of us who practice Samhain and the Dumb Supper, these rituals are seen as sacred. They are viewed as respectful, and we know they are rooted in deep spiritual traditions focused on honoring life, death, and these cycles of nature. Now, I have always felt that, I don't know, like you, something comes alive in me every fall. I don't know that over the years I've been excessively fond of Halloween. I mean, I like it. I like Samhain. I celebrate it, but it's not my, be-all, end-all celebration like Yule is, for me, in my practice. That said, the season of fall and the spiritual side that goes with Samhain is, in fact, very important to me and has always been a pivotal time in my witchcraft practice. So it's more than just a festival on the wheel of the year. For me, it's a time when the air itself seems to thrive with magic, where the boundaries between, our worlds blur. And, one of the times that I feel the deepest connection to my spiritual path. So every year as the leaves fall and the nights grow longer, I sense the powerful energy of Samhain calling to me. And I know this might not be like, oh my gosh, I'm celebrating on Halloween itself, but the fall season, the Samhain season, for me is a time to reflect, honor, and reset. So this festival is a sacred space where, I can align with both the cycles of nature and the unseen realms. All right, let's jump into Samhain. I would say the first and most profound aspect of Samhain for me is the connection with ancestors. Witchcraft is, in my practice, is rooted in history, tradition, and definitely honoring, those who came before me. Samhain gives me the opportunity to slow down and create a sacred space to honor them. I light candles for them on my altar. I will do food offerings, sometimes just sit quietly with old photographs or things that have been handed down and just listen, right? Just take a moment to listen. I have never done a full-blown dumb supper, but I am this year. So I'm really excited to take my practice to a different level. But Samhain is it's a moment of gratitude where I acknowledge their lives, their struggles, and the wisdom that they have passed down through generations. This practice grounds me. It reminds me that I'm part of a lineage whether it's by blood or by spiritual ancestry. So there is something immensely comforting in knowing that at Samhain, the veil between our worlds is at its thinnest, and that I get to reach out to the spirits more easily. I've always felt a deep connection to the spirit world. This goes back to me being very, 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 very little. And Samhain just amplifies that. It's a time when my senses are heightened and I feel a greater ability just to communicate with those on the other side. I incorporate divination into my rituals, whether that's going to be through tarot, scrying, or simply just meditating in front of a candle flame. And I ask for guidance for the coming year. This practice helps me see beyond the present moment and tune into the wisdom that the spirits and my higher self have to offer. Samhain is also a time of introspection in my practice. As the wheel turns, it mirrors the internal cycles of my own life. Samhain's energy encourages me to look back at the year that has passed, the joys, the challenges, and then my own personal growth. It's a moment of pause where I get to take stock of my spiritual journey and assess where I need to focus in the coming months. In many ways, it really does feel like it's the witch's new year, and I treat it as such in a spiritual sense. I love January 1st as my new year, but the witch's new year for us in my practice still takes hold right now for other things that are happening. So I engage in journaling, shadow work, release rituals to shed anything that no longer serves me, kind of clearing the path for my new intentions as I move forward. Now, the theme of death and rebirth that surrounds Samhain is also deeply significant to my practice. It is a time where I connect with the natural cycles of life and death, both literally and metaphorically. So nature itself teaches us that death is not an ending, but a transformation. The trees lose their leaves, the fields, grow barren, but beneath the surface, life continues in a different form, preparing for renewal. I like that, and I reflect on this symbolism during Samhain, recognizing that the endings in my own life, whether they be relationships, habits, or phases of my journey, are necessary for my own personal growth. This acceptance of endings, I think, is a key part of my own magic, and it helps me release the fear, of things ending and embrace change with even more grace. Another reason Samhain is so meaningful to me is the ritual of fire. Fire is a powerful element in my own personal craft, and during Samhain, I incorporate it into my rituals to symbolize transformation, protection, and connection with the divine. I often light a bonfire or even just a large candle, maybe multiple large candles. I love having just a big candlelit room, but I allow the flames to serve as a beacon of warmth and light as the dark half of the year begins. This act of lighting fire, you guys, feels a little primal. I don't know, does it to you? It's ancient, right? It's sacred. It represents the inner flame that sustains me through the darker months and symbolizes my commitment to carry my own light, my own torch, even in the face of challenges. Samhain also feels like a communal celebration, even if I practice alone, which I do. There is something special in knowing that witches and pagans and others are honoring this time of year in their own unique ways all around the world. It fosters that sense of unity in the craft, a little reminder that we are all connected by the cycles of nature and by our own shared experiences as magical beings. And while I don't take part personally in community rituals, I think there is a sense of just that shared purpose right now, of shared spiritual alignment with others, everybody else's strengths, and then my own practice. And it's just all tied together right now. And it keeps me inspired. Ultimately, though, I think, Samhain is important to me because it embodies the essence of what my personal witchcraft is about. It's about honoring the past, embracing the mysteries of the unseen, and trusting in the cycles of life and death. This is a time of deep magic where the earth itself feels alive with energy and where I'm reminded of the power that exists within and around me. Samhain, you guys, we know it's not just a festival. It's amazing that it's one of the 8 celebrations on our Wheel of the Year, but this is an integral part of our spiritual rhythm. It's a time when I definitely feel most connected to my ancestors, the spirits, and the sacred forces that guide my path. All right, so what are we doing tomorrow, you guys? What is everybody doing? Well, for me, you guys already know it's the Dumb Supper with my mom that she and I are hosting, and I'm so completely excited about this. Like, we are going all out. We are going by the book. Like, we are doing everything we possibly can. But if you don't have anything on your list yet, I pulled 3, kind of fun ideas just to share with you if you want some last minute help. First one is going to be maybe just host a witchy bonfire ritual. Gather your friends, family, your fellow witches, and host a Samhain bonfire. Create a sacred space outside, light a fire, and then invite everyone to bring something symbolic to release into the flames. This could be, old habits. You want to release a fear, or maybe they want to, even write down intentions for transformation that get released. The fire represents purification and the release of what no longer serves you as, you step into the darker half of the year. You can incorporate drumming, chanting, maybe dancing around the fire just to raise that energy. You can even tell spooky or, mystical stories to honor the spirit of Samhain and the thinning of the veil. Add a touch of divination maybe by pulling an oracle card or tarot cards for guidance, as you warm up by the flames. And this, you guys, does not have to be communal. So I actually this past weekend did my own bonfire in respect and in honoring Samhain, just because I know on Thursday the 31st, tomorrow, I'll be doing the Dumb Supper with Mom. So I did my own individual bonfire with everything I just kind of listed off. I love, love, love working with the element of fire. So it doesn't have to be, communal. It can be just you by the fire pit. So see, another fun one could be just to create a, Samhain ancestor altar. We've talked about this extensively over the past 3 weeks, but you could set up something if you haven't already, just to honor your loved ones and spirits. Decorate it with photos, maybe some heirlooms, candles for sure, and throw a little offering of food or drink, that your ancestors enjoyed. You can also include Seasonal symbols, Mom and I talked about this, like pumpkins, apples, leaves. But if you can, grab that black and white candle, add a little bit of purple in there, something to represent the energy of Samhain and, the evenness, the light and the dark. All right. And then spend some time, right, at your altar, just meditating, sharing your memories. Speak out loud to your ancestors. I do that. You can ask for their guidance for, the coming year, or simply express gratitude for their presence in your life. I think this activity brings both connection, and comfort during this very sacred time of the year. And then the third would just be, plan witchy movie marathon, with Halloween treats. Have a fun, magical night by, showing or just binging on a big movie marathon, right? Filled with witchy, spooky films. You can do practical magic, hocus pocus, the craft, or, opt for something more eerie like The Witch, The Wicker Man, whatever it is. Make it extra special by serving Samhain-themed treats and snacks like pumpkin bread, cider, maybe your own moon phase gummies for a magical twist. But you can even turn it into a divination night by drawing tarot cards or reading runes during the movie breaks, asking questions related to themes of the films maybe, for your own personal journey as the year winds down. So these are a lighter way to celebrate tomorrow night. I think in our more modern times, we have adapted. And again, one of the more attractive elements to our practice is we get to do what works for us. Pick and choose what complements your own personal craft. So while the origins of Samhain might date back to ancient Celtic traditions, today we continue to honor Samhain with a mix of traditional customs and then maybe some contemporary spiritual practices. As the Witches' New Year, Samhain is definitely seen as a time for endings, beginnings, and that deep, deep connection with the spirit world that we have talked about so much in October. All right, what are some more modern things that we can do tomorrow? I honestly would still keep ancestry work at the top of the list, not just because I've talked about it so much in October, but it really is a wonderful way to honor our ancestors. It could be done, doesn't have to be a full dumb supper like I'm going to be doing, but ancestry work I think is first and foremost. But we can also work with our divination practices. We can have a bonfire. Again, that's what I did over this past weekend, or some type of fire ritual. There is seasonal feasting and offerings, shadow work, crafting protection and warding spells, definitely honoring the cycle of death and rebirth. There's group rituals and celebrations, with your friends and family. There's decorating and ritual space cleansing. So ancestor work, first though, Samhain is the time when the veil is the thinnest, between our physical and spiritual world. So many of us are going to use this opportunity to connect with ancestors and honor the dead. Again, you don't have to do the full dumb supper, but something just to honor your loved ones who have passed. Again, grab photos, heirlooms, food, drink, candle, something. Engage in some type of quiet meditation or prayer, seeking messages or guidance from your ancestors. Again, the dumb supper is above and beyond, but it doesn't have to be that elaborate, right? Modern witches can just set an extra plate at their table. That portion of it should be eaten in silence, so you can focus and see if anything comes up, but it doesn't have to be the full-blown thing that Mom and I are doing tomorrow. Divination, though, that's definitely one as far as a more modern thing to do during Samhain. This is our time of heightened spiritual energy. So many of us are going to perform tarot readings, scrying, whether it's mirrors, water, crystal balls, or other divination methods to gain insights into the coming year. Oracle cards, runes, pendulums, these are all popular tools that we can use to kind of peek into the future or receive guidance from the spirit world. Bonfires, that's another big one. I think many of us today keep the traditional Samhain practice alive by lighting a bonfire or something in your fire pit, even if it is just a big candle. Fire really is seen as a purifier and a way to connect with transformative energy. So some witches are going to use candles to represent this flame. If a bonfire isn't possible, the fires are often central to group rituals, but they absolutely can be used in solitary work. I do. So my work is solitary, and I love working with the element of fire. But here, we get to release our fears, our old habits, things that no longer serve us by burning written intentions or even symbolic objects in the flame. For more modern stuff, I would say Samhain, it marks the end of the harvest season, so many of us can just prepare seasonal meals featuring foods like pumpkins and apples and root vegetables and grains. These meals are not only, just eaten for ourselves, but we can share them. We can, invite our friends and family over and offer food to these spirits or deities. Some witches still leave offerings outside for nature spirits or for the fae, just like back in ancient Irish and Scottish traditions. Others are going to maybe bury food offerings in the earth as a way of giving thanks for the harvest and ensuring future prosperity. See, another more modern thing we can do is probably some shadow work. I really like this one at the end of December, but Samhain is also a time for introspection and transformation. For many in this practice, in our practices, this is the new year. So witches are often going to engage in shadow work during, this time of the year, reflecting on their own inner selves, facing their fears, working through any unresolved issues. This can happen by journaling, meditation, guided visualizations are common methods used to explore, the shadow self and declare emotional blockages before entering the new year. Let's see, what else? Oh, I mentioned crafting protection and warning spells. Samhain is a liminal time, so we often feel the need to protect ourselves from negative energies or maybe any mischievous spirits that might be floating around. So crafting protection spells is going to be common practice right now. These might involve creating maybe some charms, sachets, sigils would be good right now. Something that's meant to guard against spiritual interference. So some of us are also going to anoint our doors, windows, honestly, ourselves, with protection oils or salt, just to kind of help ensure we and our homes remain safe during this mystical time. Samhain, old and new, it definitely marks the end of the growing season and the descent into the darker half of the year, symbolizing the death of the old and preparation for rebirth. So many of us are going to use this time to reflect on the cycles of life, of death, and rebirth in our own lives. This might involve setting goals for the coming year or letting go of things that no longer serve us. Some of us are going to perform rituals just to symbolize death and rebirth, such as burying old intentions or, creating new goals to nurture through the winter. If you do like group rituals and celebrations, if you're a part of a coven, this is going to be a good time of the year to partake in the celebrations, whether they are, coven rituals, public circles, or gatherings with just like-minded individuals. These celebrations are going to include a combination of the practices that I just talked about, fire rituals, divination, ancestor honoring, feasting, all the good stuff. Samhain rituals are going to focus on themes of community, transformation, and spiritual connection when you are working with group rituals and celebrations. And then we've definitely got just decorating and, our ritual space cleansing. So modern witches are often going to create sacred spaces to honor Samhain, both inside and outside. These spaces are typically going to be adorned with symbols of the seasons, like our fall decorations of pumpkins, skulls, black candles, autumn leaves, all the fun stuff. And then, cleansing these spaces with smoke from whether it's your garden sage, cedar, palo santo, it's going to be a common practice to ensure the energy remains pure and aligned for our ritual work. So seasonal colors like black and orange, our deep reds, are going to be used to align with the energies of Samhain and the turning of the wheel. And you know what? Let's not forget the office, right? Oh my gosh. At Witchy Work Witches, I'm always trying to circle back to our jobs and bridging the gap between our personal practices and our corporate world. And incorporating the celebration of Samhain into your office discreetly can be a subtle and personal way to honor the energy of this very sacred time while still maintaining that, professional environment. We can do a little mini ancestor or seasonal altar in a drawer or even on a shelf, But you can use small, discrete objects like a tiny framed picture of a loved one, or a few seasonal items like acorns, maybe a couple leaves, a couple crystals, or, just the little black or orange tea lights, little tea light candles, which you don't necessarily have to light. But every time you open the drawer or you look at the objects, you can take a moment to reflect and honor your ancestors or, just the season of change. You can also keep these items in a decorative bowl or a jar even, at your desk that appears to be part of your seasonal decor, but you know it holds special significance just for you. We can wear Samhain-inspired jewelry and accessories to the office. We can bring the spirit of the celebration in by wearing jewelry and accessories with symbols that resonate with the season. So think about wearing like a subtle piece of jewelry featuring symbols like the crescent moon, pentacle, black cat maybe, something with a fun autumn feel like an oak leaf charm. But you can also wear colors associated with Samhain, right? The black, the orange, deep purples. No one needs to know the magical significance behind these choices. They just appear to be like a seasonal fashion statement. Third, we can do some type of aromatherapy or just desk decoration. We can use Samhain-inspired essential oils in a subtle way to kind of set the mood for the season. You can apply a drop of clove, cinnamon, or maybe even patchouli essential oil to a diffuser bracelet, or use one of those discrete essential oil roller blends. So these autumn scents, they're going to evoke the energy of Samhain in us without being overly noticeable. And just, for your desk decorations, incorporate small seasonal touches like a little pumpkin paperweight, maybe a black cat figurine, anything like fall themed stationery maybe. These items can be low key, but we know, right? They still carry the essence of the season and bring just a little bit of Samhain magic into our workspace. All right, that's just a handful, but these ideas allow you to, honor Samhain quietly and personally while maintaining that professionalism in the office. You'll be able to connect with the season's magic without drawing massive amount of attention, allowing your witchy energy to flow even in a work setting. Before I wrap up, I did want to add one thing to our Samhain celebration for 2024, and that is the moon being a dark moon on the 31st. As I prepare to honor the sacred energy of Samhain, the dark moon on October 31st feels like the perfect companion for deep introspective work. The dark moon is, that time right before the new moon begins. I really do consider this the last phase in our moon's cycle. It is a time of rest, renewal, and potent possibilities. And Samhain, marking the thinning of the veil between the physical world and the spiritual realm, invites us to reflect on death, endings, and transformation. So together, these two energies can offer us, oh my goodness, you guys, a profound opportunity for shadow work, connecting with ancestors, and setting intentions for spiritual growth tomorrow night. So working with the dark moon. It may be a little different from all of us, depending on what you do in your practice. I feel called to embrace the stillness and the darkness, not, with a fear, but with that sense of curiosity and reverence. The absence of moonlight is like a invitation to release what no longer serves me. And as Samhain represents the end of the Celtic year, it is a time to acknowledge these cycles of life and death, both literal and metaphorical. So I can use this moment to let go of past hurts, limiting beliefs, and patterns that have kept me stagnant this year. Now, during this period of deep introspection, I plan to create a sacred space where I can meditate and, journey inward. I'm going to be lighting a single black candle, that, symbol of protection, and embrace the shadow work, allowing its flame to guide me through maybe some dark corners of my psyche. So in this quiet liminal space, I feel it's important to ask myself the hard questions. What am I ready to release? What fears or regrets have been holding me back? What do I need to do? What do I need to look at? And with the dark moon, there's no rush to find answers, right? Only the patient unfolding of truths that can be unveiled in this darkness. So I'm going to actually be doing this tonight on Wednesday night, since tomorrow night is all about the dumb supper with my mom. So this is going to be my time, my moment to slow down and be still and look inward. And while Samhain is also a time to connect with the spirits of those who have passed, I do intend to honor my ancestors in this work, certainly with the Dumb Supper on the 31st, but I'm also creating just a little altar with photographs and mementos, a little bit of, food and drink, inviting them to join me in this sacred moment tonight on Samhain Eve. So as I sit in the darkness, I'm going to be opening my heart to any messages that they might have, knowing that the veil is thin and communication is most accessible right now. Now, the dark moon's quiet energy enhances this connection, helping me listen more deeply and hopefully feel their presence without distraction. As the night deepens, I also feel drawn just to kind of plant the seeds of new beginnings. I know something's stirring. I know something's transitioning in my own practice, and I'm not afraid. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what comes next. And though the dark moon is often, seen as a time of endings, it's a pretty fertile ground for fresh intentions. And Samhain's death-like energy clears the space for rebirth. So I'm going to be taking the opportunity to set intentions for the upcoming year. What do I want to cultivate in my life? What new paths are calling me? And what do I need to end so those paths are allowed to take off? By aligning with the energy of both Samhain and the dark moon, I think I can let go of the old while making space for what is coming new. In this blend of release, of remembrance and renewal, I sense the beauty of the dark moon on Samhain. I'm so excited that these two are lining up this year. It is a time to honor the cycles of death, life, and rebirth, knowing that even in the darkest moments, there is always the potential for something new, for that new growth and new transformation. So by embracing the dark moon's energy, I can fully immerse myself in the magic of Samhain, allowing its mysteries to guide me on my own spiritual journey. All right, you guys, well, I do have a Samhain poem for you today, and I wanted to throw some options out there for all of us with the dark moon and the new moon cycle that we are going to be heading into this weekend. So I'm going to go grab those notes, and I will be right back. All right, let's do my Samhain poem first, and it goes. On Samhain night the veil grows thin, the wheel of the year begins to spin, a time of endings and new starts too, where shadows dance and dreams come true. The harvest gathered, the fires burn bright, we honor the dead in the silent night. Ancestors call from the other side, with guiding wisdom from our spirit guides. The year has turned, the dark half reigns, we welcome the quiet, the slowing of gains. In this stillness we plant the seeds, for the future holds what the spirit needs. With pumpkins carved and candles aglow, we embrace the cycles, the ebb and the flow. Samhain's magic, both ancient and clear, celebrates the turning of the sacred year. All right, our moon, she is dark, dark, dark. She is in her last phase before starting new again on Friday. I'm going to add a couple of things on here since I won't be talking with you guys again until next week. So first, let's grab 3 things we can do for sure with the dark moon happening right now. I would do shadow work and self-reflection, banishing and letting go rituals, and then setting intentions for new beginnings. So the dark moon is a time of introspection, perfect for shadow work, examining the parts of yourself that are hidden or unacknowledged. Sit in meditation, journal if you can. What are your fears, regrets, or any unresolved emotions? This is an opportunity to face these aspects with without judgment, and then release what no longer serves you, clearing that space for healing and growth. The absence of moonlight is an ideal time for banishing unwanted energies, unwanted habits, or any of those influences you don't want in your life. You can perform a simple ritual by writing down what you wish to release on a piece of paper and then safely burning it as a symbolic act of letting go. Visualize those energies dissolving, leaving room for renewal and positive transformation. And then although the dark moon is associated with endings, it's also the fertile ground for new beginnings. Doors have to close for other doors to open. And we can use this time to plant seeds for future endeavors. Write down your intentions for personal growth, spiritual development, or any goals that you'd like to manifest. Focus on what you want to cultivate in the next lunar cycle, and then keep those intentions close as you work toward them in the coming days. All right, now Friday. That's our new moon. November 1st is going to start a new lunar cycle. Here I would work on, set powerful intentions for this coming November lunar cycle. We can do manifestation rituals and then begin new projects or spiritual practices. So the new moon is an ideal time to start fresh. Set intentions for the coming lunar cycle. We can create rituals where we write down our goals, our dreams, and any of our desires for the upcoming month. We focus on areas of our life where we want to seek growth, where we want abundance or healing. Charge a crystal, candle, or special object with your intentions, keeping it on your altar as a reminder through the cycle. The energy of the new moon is particularly powerful for manifestation work. Create a vision board. Perform a spell focused on drawing new opportunities, maybe. Think about new relationships or what abundance you want in your life. Use symbols, objects, something that represents what you want to attract, such as, herbs, crystals, sigils again here, but channel your intention into them during your ritual. And the new moon marks a time of fresh starts, making it the perfect occasion to launch new creative projects or begin a new spiritual practice. Maybe it is starting a new journal. Maybe it's beginning a meditation routine, or maybe it's learning a new magical skill. This is the time to plant those seeds. With the new moon growing in light after this phase, your efforts will gain momentum and clarity as the cycle progresses. You guys know I'm heading over to my mom's house tomorrow night for our big dumb supper that I talked about last week with you. I'm really excited about this one. And I am recording next week's episode a little early because the day after Samhain, I take off for Texas to see my boys again. Yay, I'm so excited. So to keep those early posts available for my Patreon members, I am going to be recording early and have next week's episode about our familiars ready to go over the weekend for you. Again, I do want to say happy Samhain to everybody. I really am glad you are with me today and that you are a part of this Witchy Work Wishes family. I'm sending you all of my best wishes for a wonderful Halloween and Samhain tomorrow night. My thoughts are with you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week and new moon weekend, and I'll talk with you next week. Thank you for joining me today at Witchy Work Wishes, a place to find your weekly inspiration for bringing your personal witchcraft practice into your business, work, and office. For more information and additional content, please visit me online at witchyworkwishes.com. If you want to send me a personal note, please email me at info@witchyworkwishes.com. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for Witchy Work Wishes.